Welcome to TWitWoW, the best wrestling podcast made for wrestling fans, by wrestling fans, on the web today. I'm John, that's my cohort and commentary Ashton, and this is our Monday Night Raw review. And I gotta say, I really enjoyed this Raw tonight. This Raw was hampered right out of the gate with unfortunate circumstances, which we will get to in just a second. And you know what? I honestly believe they made the best of it. They tried to land on their feet, and I think as a result, they put a pretty decent show together. Not a perfect show, but one that had a sense of purpose, that was driven to achieve that purpose, and that actually had me interested in the upcoming Clash of Champions event. It's no longer Night of Champions, it's now Clash of Champions. So overall, I'd honestly give this Raw, for how narratively progressive it was, and even some of the matches, I'd give it a 7.5 to even 8 out of 10 for my enjoyment. What did you think, partner?
Yeah, I would probably give it a 7. I mean, I think that you might have enjoyed it a little bit more than me, but then the grade that you gave was actually a lot closer than I kind of expected it to be to what I gave it. This Raw was, I'll say the first hour and a half for me was actually quite good, quite enjoyable. But then Titus O'Neal got a microphone, and then Charlotte got a microphone, and I'm not even sure which one was worse. That's how bad they both were.
Oh, to me, Titus was far worse tonight, but again, we'll get to that later in the show. That said...
And then, of course, we had to end the night with, hello, my Roman, hello, my big dog, hello, my big-time guy.
Wow, nicely done. Yeah, demoted my ass yet again. But while we're speaking about all the negative stuff, it's quite apropos, because let's get right into our first segment, Heat of the Night. And I really don't have any heats of the night. I only really have one nitpick, and you already kind of alluded to it, partner. Never, ever in your natural-born life ever give Titus O'Neal a microphone again.
Again.
Again. That was absolute, utter garbage. Guys, I wish I would have had a stopwatch for this segment, because it had to have been less than 2 seconds. You open your mouth and you botch. Now, if that isn't...
Dude, here's the funny part. Before this, he was a motivational speaker.
I feel so bad for the people that paid for your speaking fees. Oh my God, this was abysmal. You'd think somebody with that experience would at least be, I'm not asking him to be like what I used to call Bray Wyatt, a maestro of the microphone, but you'd at least think with that background, you'd be competent, or at least on par. This was atrocious. Absolutely awful. And what's even worse, really the whole segment, I felt like was just weird, uncomfortable. I mean, Bob Backlund had a great moment trying to come out and silence Titus with the cross-face chicken wing. But just like, why is this program existing? It's pretty much the same story that they told the first time the Primetime Players broke up, but with the addition of Bob Backlund, which actually does go a ways to making it better, because Bob Backlund's awesome, but not nearly enough to make me suffer through that promo with a smile on my face. Easily the worst part of the show, and this segment also illuminated just how great Heath Slater's been, because it actually got "We Want Slater" chants. That's what they were chanting in that segment. We want Slater. So,
dude, and I was even going to say, I feel like someone with Titus's experience, the dude is like 37 years old. Actually, I think he might even be older than that, because I remember us talking about him and Darren Young being basically the same ages, respectively, as John Cena and Randy Orton. And Cena's 39, so Titus has got to be at least close to that. And he's been doing this for like 6 or 7 years now, at least. And he was doing motivational speaking before then. You would have thought at some point that he would have picked up some kind of improvisational skills. They were literally chanting for another former tag team partner of his, and he didn't use that at all.
Yeah, and he was like, oh, I know who you want. I want Darren. Yes, you know who they want. Use it as fodder to get yourself some heat. You know?
Oh, you want Slater? That's another one of those ex-tag team partners that held me back.
Exactly. That simple. You know, this promo really harkened me back to that season of NXT. What was it, like season 4 or 5, where it was like Gilligan's Island. They just couldn't get off the show or whatever.
Win? Make it a win.
And yeah, Michael Cole is just like all these weeks on here, and he still can't cut a promo. And I'm like, all these years now, and he still can't cut a promo. So
and it's funny, too, because before the promo even started, I tweeted, Titus plus microphone equals disaster guaranteed. And boy, I've gotten a lot right tonight, but I don't think I've ever gotten anything more right than I got that tweet.
Yeah, to say that was on point would be the grossest understatement I could ever utter in the history of this podcast. But that being said, do you have any heats of the night tonight?
Well, I don't have any full-blown heats of the night just because I feel like it would be repetitive to talk about Roman not actually being, relegated like we were supposed to get.
Right.
So we can complain about that when it comes, but I don't think it's necessarily worth being a heat of the night. So I'm going to actually say no heats of the night tonight.
And no nitpicks either, then, I take it.
No, nothing. The thing is, I feel like this show wasn't, there was a lot going right for this show, and then the stuff that happened that I hated wasn't because it was, horrible decision making so much as it was just me personal taste not liking it.
Exactly. I get completely what you're saying. With that said, then let's roll right on to our Monday Night Raw review. And we get a recap of SummerSlam last night. We see how the Universal Championship bout went. And that's when we cut to the show. Of course, Finn Balor winning last night over Seth Rollins. But then we cut to the main show. Commentary informs us of Finn Balor's injury, the torn labrum, and then he's going to be out of action. He's going to have to vacate the title. And then we go to the ring with Stephanie McMahon and Mick Foley. They introduce Finn Balor, and it is a really sad sight. Finn comes out, his arms in a sling, like the pro that he is, with a smile on his face, carrying the championship in his good arm. And the crowd's hot for Finn, very respectful, very mindful of what he's going through. Gets in the ring. They did have one awkward chant, like, you deserve it. I know we all like to celebrate title wins, but maybe not the best time. But I know they meant well. And Finn more or less says, thanks to each and every one of you. Thank you, Seth Rollins, for giving me a great match. I worked so hard to get this, and I promise you when I come back, it's going to be the first thing I'm gunning for. And then Mick looks at Finn. He takes the title off Finn's shoulder, and Finn makes his exit. Really hard to watch. Again, I have nothing but respect for Fergal Devitt, the man. I think he's one of the hardest working people in the company. I was really looking forward to seeing him carry the brand on his shoulders, regardless of our opinions about him from a kayfabe perspective, a booking perspective. So he heads up the ramp. Rollins meets him there, and Rollins is just kind of smiling and laughing about it. Like, oh, I don't even have to sweat a rematch with you now. You're broken down. You get to go to the back of the line, and now I get to claim my championship. Seth just assumes that he's going to be awarded the title, but things don't go exactly as Rollins planned, does it, Ashton?
Well, no, because Rollins, like you said, convinced that he's going to be just kind of handed the title. But then who was the first person to have something to say about that but Sami Zayn? And I got so excited at this point because I'm thinking, oh, my God, they're finally acknowledging that Sami Zayn was underbooked at SummerSlam, and they've been keeping him strong, and he beat Owens at Battleground, and they're actually going to give him an opportunity at the title. But then, of course, he wasn't the only one to come out because Jericho and Owens and the realest guys, Enzo and Cass. And finally, I believe the last person to come out was Roman. So those are all the guys that ended up out in the ring. And they just kind of, all kind of laid their claim for the title, even though Sami was the only one that actually really deserved it out of that group. And then we got this big series that's going to be happening. And we found out later on in the night that the series was going to be 4 one-on-one matches with the winner of each match facing each other in a fatal 4-way next week to crown the new champion.
Now that we've put everything in its proper context, I want to start off my sentiments by saying, and I'm really getting kind of weary, defending Sami Zayn all this time recently. I would have loved a Sami Zayn Seth Rollins program culminating a Clash of Champions for the new Universal Champion. Yeah. I really felt like WWE was going to pull the trigger because, again, it's not even whether you like Sami Zayn or not. Kayfabe-wise, he beat Kevin Owens at Battleground. He won at the pre-show, and, he's been on a roll. He's been, racking up that momentum. And Seth Rollins is a great heel foil who better than a guy like Sami Zayn off the heels of Finn Balor's injury to step up and say, no, Seth, you're a scumbag. I'm going to challenge you. I'm going to assert my place to be WWE Universal Champion. I felt like that could have been a very compelling story to watch unfold, but we get this giant, melee of people, all of them coming out, and like you said, we have a series of matches tonight culminating in a fatal four-way. Now, the fan in me is happy about one of these guys participating, and we'll get into that later, but looking at it through a purely critical and objective lens, this really should have just been Sami Zayn and Seth Rollins' bout, in my opinion. And yeah, they had a chance to really push Sami and really get behind Sami, because I think we're going to need a really strong babyface in Finn Balor's absence, and they didn't capitalize. So that is kind of a disappointment. Not enough to be the heat of the night or a nitpick, but definitely something that kind of makes you sigh a little bit.
John, you say we're going to need a really strong babyface in Finn's absence, and all WWE hears is, I want more Roman Reigns.
I know, dude. I know. And it's frustrating to no fucking end. Literally, there is no end to it. And it gets
main evented again tonight.
He did. He did. And like you said, I ain't going to rant. I don't think you're going to rant either, because it really gets repetitive at this point. But that said, do you have anything else you want to say about the opening segment?
I don't think so, no. I was a little bit frustrated that everyone came out after Sami and that it wasn't just Sami and them, but what happened later on in the night kind of made me a little bit relieved that it wasn't just Sami, because that would have been even more heartbreaking.
Yeah, really. And I think another thing that I would have liked to, and again, this is just a personal preference thing, I'm not holding it against the show, I would have loved for each of those guys to kind of stake their claim, even with a brief promo. It's like everybody just came out and kind of interrupted each other. I would have liked some kind of
like Seth already kind of said his piece, and then Sami comes out and says, I beat Kevin Owens at Battleground. I beat Sheamus last night. I won my match last night against the Dudley Boyz with Neville. Why are you not rewarding me for winning all these matches? I should be in this title match as well. And then I think, who came out next? Was it Owens or Jericho?
I believe it was Jericho.
I think so too. And Jericho just, Sami, you're a stupid idiot. You don't belong in the title picture. I beat Stone Cold and The Rock in the same night. I deserve to be in the title picture. And then Owens comes out and he says, Sami, you might have beat me one time at Battleground, but I've owned you for our entire WWE careers. I injured you. I beat John Cena in my first night here. If anyone deserves to be in the world title picture, it's me. And then Big Cass and Enzo come out and they cut one of their awesome promos and bring it back to Cass needing to be in the title picture as well. And then you get Roman, and he just looks intimidating because putting a mic in front of his face isn't a great idea in the first place.
Man, and again, I know it's not going to happen, but we already talked so much about Roman Reigns. I mean, why not? I would have loved if he just would have gotten a mic, scanned the ring, and just been like, can't any of you read clocks? It's Roman Reigns time, and then just drops the mic.
That would have been heelish, though, John. He can't be heelish.
I know it. I know it, and it still hurts. But with that said, I mean, I do agree with you. I would have loved promos to kind of establish dominance, to kind of put the footing in the Universal Championship picture. But our first match right out of the box, Seth Rollins versus Sami Zayn.
And right out of the box, like you said, Sami Zayn twists his frickin' ankle.
Yeah, which I think was a really brilliant sell job by Sami Zayn, and really heightened the drama and the emotion of the match. And honestly, the emotion and the drama in this match is exactly why I wanted this program to be just the two of them, because I felt like they had a fun match for TV. They could do even better on pay-per-view. You and I both know that. I think everybody watching this match tonight knew it. And they had some great moments here. I mean, Sami Zayn avoiding the power bomb into the barricade. Seth's trying to do to Sami what he did to Finn last night. Sami able to counter with a moonsault off the barricade. Like you said, there was a point where he injured, quote unquote, his ankle. That became a point of in-ring psychology for Seth Rollins later in the match. He even did like a leg-based submission, which was really cool, targeting the ankle. That just showed that he's willing to diversify.
Seth, you're such a good wrestler, but you really shouldn't try and do submissions when you don't know how to do them.
Yeah, that's true. But you know what, though? I at least commend him for trying. He should have probably been a little bit more well-versed, but I think he wanted to stick to psychology, and I can respect that. At the end of the day, though, great finish for the match, because Sami ultimately got caught in a pedigree. That leg just wouldn't get back in the game. If it was 100%, they even teased like maybe he could have beaten Seth because he did have him vulnerable for the haluva kick at one point. But it just didn't come together. So Seth Rollins advances, and Sammy's hopes of being Universal Champion immediately dashed, which to me kind of bolsters the credibility of the rumor I read that WWE wants to keep Sami Zayn and Neville in a tag team for a while. And Sammy, and I love Neville too. I think both guys could do a lot better. I was just going to say Sammy could do a lot better, but I really think both guys could. I think being in a tag team, as fun as that could be for audiences, they're far beyond the tag team titles to me. So, we'll see what happens, but great matchup here. Seth gets the win, and not really much more to say than that. What did you think?
Yeah, I agree. I really enjoyed this match, although admittedly I was kind of worried about Sammy. I feel like we've been worked, like genuinely worked, more in the last 2 nights than we've probably been in the last 2 years.
Yeah, I completely agree with you there, partner. Because at first I got really worried, but then seeing like how it was targeted and stuff, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna believe that this is a work. And honestly, like I was waffling between, is this in poor taste given that Finn just relinquished the title, or is this really brilliant because now you're really upping the sympathy because Finn just walked out because of an injury, and now another beloved character might be doing the same. So yeah, great psychology, great story. But Seth does get the win, and I've got nothing else to say about this match, so we can move on if you want.
Yeah, and actually we transitioned right into another match, Kevin Owens versus Neville. And I do want to point out that all 4 participants in these first 2 matches, former NXT World Champions.
Great catch. Great catch. I did not make note of that, but you're absolutely right. What did you think?
I mean, the 4 guys in the first 2 matches and the guy that had to relinquish the title in the first place are all former NXT champs.
Yeah, we are NXT indeed. NXT taking over the world. But what did you think about Kevin Owens versus Neville?
I loved this match, and I loved the finish. I love that they kept Neville strong, make it seem like he just keeps getting screwed out of wins, like Jericho caused the distraction, and then even after the first distraction, it wasn't enough. And, just the whole thing with Jericho constantly screwing Neville, and then Owens not winning with the pop-up powerbomb, winning with a torture rack neck breaker was actually pretty cool to see. Kind of funny though that he's basically using like the reverse of Nikki Bella's new finisher that she was so proud to debut last night.
Yeah, that is a great point, and I will also agree with you. I really liked that the match didn't end with the pop-up powerbomb. It did end with that, kind of inverted fireman's carry, like spinning into the neck breaker. That was so awesome because I think it shows like not every match has to end with a finisher. You can break up the monotony of that, and Neville got caught. Kevin Owens advances, which again, this is what I was alluding to when I said the fan in me was happy with the structure of this match. And I'll tell you, Kevin Owens, man, for a guy that lost at Battleground in a major feud, he's doing all right for himself. Won the tag match at SummerSlam, and now he wins this qualifier tonight, and he's going to be competing for the world title next week. Not bad for Kevin Owens. Yeah, excellent match. A lot of fun. KO gets the W, and Jericho as a unit, man, I still love them. I still think they're great. We'll see what happens next week.
Whatever happens next week won't be as glorious as what happened tonight between these guys.
Certainly not, my friend. Certainly not.
So then we do find out that about next week having the fatal 4-way between the 4 winners of the singles matches tonight, and then they told us about the 2 remaining matches being Rusev, Cass, and Roman Jericho. And then we cut backstage and we see the New Day just dunking on some random dude with a basketball net that they're carrying around backstage for some reason. And then we go to commercial, and when we come back, the New Day have their entrance. Big E announces that he's back, and he's all happy and excited to be back, and they have a unicorn piñata, and they ask the crowd what they think it's filled with, and they say booty holes, and they say yeah, because it makes sure you ain't booty. And then the club comes out and ruin the whole thing.
Yeah, just reminding the New Day, just saying over and over, doing their best Chris Jericho impersonation. This is stupid, 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 or maybe even more so a Ryback impression before he left the company. And yeah, Gallows and Anderson are saying, look, we won last night at SummerSlam in case you forgot, which means we're still entitled to a tag team championship match. And then they single out Kofi. He said, Kofi, you're the stupidest because you say you love magic. Well, let me ask you, did you like that magic killer we delivered on you last night? And then we get around to the club saying that they are going to dismantle, dissect, destroy the muscle of the New Day and Big E, because it's going to be Big E versus Carl Anderson. I believe that match is up next. So overall, another great promo from the New Day. I love these guys. The Barclays Center love these guys. And to think they've been champions for a full year. I mean, I'll tell you, you're great at what you do. When to me, at least, that year flew by. So great stuff
Yes,
for
it
them.
did. Yeah, that year was so quick. I didn't even realize it was a year already.
Yeah, and that just shows you the quality of their work because I'll tell you, I mean, I couldn't believe it. I'm like, wow, really that long? Which again is going to make the club and Gallows and Anderson, if they are the ones, meant to kind of dethrone the New Day, which I still believe they are. It's going to make them look like $1 million when they end that reign because the New Day have been so dominant, so credible, and they are legit baby faces. So they're the complete package right now. So yeah, fun segment to hype up Big E versus Carl Anderson, which again I presume was up next, right?
Yes, sir.
What'd you think of this match?
I'm so disappointed in the way that Carl Anderson has been used. Like, I get that, Big E should have a win on his first night back, and it kind of rebuilds his credibility. He's over, by the way. People freaking love Big E, and I'm right there with him. He's awesome. But man, Carl Anderson is a freaking workhorse, and he needs to be having like 15, 20-minute singles matches with the likes of Big E and Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens and Jericho and Rusev. And he's just kind of the fall guy of the club at this point.
Yeah, it really stinks because I think the world of Carl Anderson. I really grew to be a huge fan of his in terms of singles, thanks to our coverage of G1 Climax 25, last year. I thought he was so good. And, seeing him here, it was a nice match. I love some of the spots they did. Like one of my favorite spots, Big E was getting ready to do that apron spear. Here I'm thinking Carl Anderson's going to get caught, but Carl Anderson knees Big E in the face. Like, I thought that was a great sequence, a counter that made me pop. In the end, though, and Carl Anderson, when he was stalking Big E, I'm like, oh my God, are we going to see a gun stun? I knew we weren't, but of course, the fan in me always has to take over. And Big E, he powered through. He got the big ending. He got the win. And so, yeah, Carl Anderson taken out. Surprisingly, not the last we'd see of the club, but we'll get to that later. But despite the fact that Big E won in the singles match, doesn't change the fact that the club has beaten the New Day by DQ, albeit, but they've still beaten them in a tag team match. So in my mind, they're still the presumptive #1 contenders. So fun match, but, it was what it was.
Yeah, absolutely. It was, it was decent. It wasn't horrible. I'm kind of disappointed that Carl Anderson just seems to be kind of a jabroni in the WWE, just the way that they book him. It just seems like he can't really get anything done. He's never won a match singles, I don't think, in WWE, and I just want so much more for him. He's the real talent on the club. He's the one that should be getting the push. Oh.
Yeah, I do agree. Carl Anderson is absolutely magnificent. I hope one day he gets his day in the sun. But, I mean, whether he will or not remains to be seen. For the moment, though, Big E wins. I've got nothing else to say about it. We can move on.
Are you sure you don't want to keep stalling?
No, I'm good. What came next?
Oh, Titus O'Neal.
Oh, we can go over this quickly. I pretty much stabbed myself in the ears, and that was pretty much
with what? You have to specify the instrument.
Sharp pens. I took the caps off the pens, and I inscribed "Stop the Pain" into the deepest parts of my brain with the pens. It took a lot of hand work by me, which really surprised me because my motor skills are pretty poor. But I'll tell you, when Titus O'Neal is that awful, you dig down deep. You know what I'm saying? So Titus O'Neal, again, just botched right out of the gate, tried to run down Darren Young, ended up running down himself with all those botches he was making. Again, he was so terrible, the crowd was chanting, "We want Slater," which I'll tell you what that did, made me excited to potentially see Slater tomorrow night on SmackDown Live. Yeah. Really hoping he does something.
And another thing that he could have done while they were chanting, "We want Slater," he could have said, "You want the Gator? Well, I'm right here."
Yeah, there you go. See, you're so much better than Titus O'Neal, but that's just stating the obvious. Yeah, Titus.
Horrible. Here's my question, and this is not me trying to be an asshole, even though it's definitely going to be me being an asshole. This is just me asking a genuine question that I don't understand, that I want to know the answer to. How does somebody get into a business that requires you to be good at moving around and talking and be in that business and make money in that business for like 7 years and after 7 years still be horrible at moving around and talking?
I don't know, dude. I wish I had an answer for you because that would justify Titus O'Neal's existence, but nothing could justify it at this point.
Seriously, those are literally the two things that you're asked to do in the WWE. Move around, get in the ring and do stuff. Even if you're big like Strowman or Titus or Big Show, you still have to move around at least a little bit. You still have to be at least a little bit nimble and talk. And Titus is horrible at both those things. Is he seriously that good of a human being and that nice of a person that they just haven't fired him out of pity?
That could be, and I'll tell you what, speaking solely for myself here, partner, the worst part about this, and I know it's not even his fault, this is not me holding it against him, I would just really call this a byproduct, but knowing that he's associated with Titus actually makes me care about Darren less. I was loving what he was doing until Titus infected that shit. And now all I want is for Darren to distance himself from it as quickly as possible because I don't want to suffer through this feud, which unfortunately means by association, I don't want to see Darren Young right now. It's temporary. The moment he does something new, please, people, call me, let me know. But God, this is awful. I don't want to put up with it. Again, it's the same thing they did the first time they broke up. The only difference is that Bob Backlund's a part of it. And Bob Backlund, while he's amazing, can only take a shitty program so far.
I would rather see Darren Young in a feud with heel Jack Swagger than this shit.
I agree. Dude, I would literally rather see Darren Young versus anybody, but I really feel like Titus is one of the worst workers in the company, just all around.
Curtis Axel.
Curtis Axel would be another great one. Why not?
Bo Dallas.
Oh my God, Bo Dallas, absolutely.
Sin Cara.
Again, absolutely. Again, anybody but
Goldust.
Goldust again, yeah. Everybody. R-Truth, yeah. It's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. But Bob Backlund does try and come out.
By the way, it's worth noting Titus actually got drafted before Darren Young.
Yeah. You know what? I wish I could put stock in that. I don't know what they were thinking about. I don't know what the whole thing with the draft was in certain parts. I mean, Big Show, I think, got drafted before Cesaro, didn't he? So, yes. A lot of screw-ups there.
Neville and Sheamus, yes.
And Neville and Sheamus. So, Bob Backlund comes out. He's giving lip to Titus. Titus is like, I'm going to beat your old ass. And Bob Backlund actually gets Titus temporarily in the chicken wing, which was an amazing visual. And I actually somewhat popped for it because somebody had the gall to shut Titus up and they followed through. Some mad respect to Bob Backlund. Of course, Titus fights out of it. He scoop slams Bob Backlund. Then Darren comes out. And see, this is another thing I didn't like. Why didn't you immediately try to beat Titus's ass? You have shown that you get really fiery and stuff when people disrespect or put their hands on your coach. Titus,
I had that same question, dude. I had that exact same question. Like, Backlund clearly just got assaulted by Titus. The last time Titus even verbally assaulted Backlund, you lost your freaking mind and you snapped and you beat the hell out of him. Where was that here?
Exactly. It was nowhere because instead his primary concern is checking on Backlund while the threat is still conscious and in the ring. I don't understand that. Like, neutralize the threat, then check on the casualty. That's how it usually works. And see, again, I don't want to hold anything against Darren Young. I was really liking what he was doing. I was enjoying the feud of The Miz. I was enjoying the Bob Backlund stuff. But, man, nothing killed that momentum quicker than Titus O'Neal. I was just going
to say, can we just chalk it up to Titus O'Neal making everything and everyone associated with him worse?
Exactly. Yeah. And he lays Darren out at the Clash of the Titus. I groan. Everybody groans. But mercifully, this segment finally ends.
Yes, this segment ends. And do you want to know what happened next, John?
What's that?
Rusev versus Big Cass.
You will talk about that. I really took care of the painful
segment. Yeah. I do want to specify, this actually never happened. We never got word on this, but Tom Phillips did try to get a word from Stephanie McMahon regarding Brock Lesnar, but all she said was that there will be repercussions, and we never heard from her for the rest of the night.
It's probably going to be a suspension or something if I had to guess. Probably won't be anything too drastic. But, yeah, that's all I have to say about that.
Anyway, we get to Rusev versus Big Cass, and... Rusev with these injured ribs, thanks to Roman, the freaking savage brute that he is, can't handle this match, and he actually gets himself counted out.
Yeah, I was liking how the match was going. I was liking how these two were working with each other. Again, Rusev's booking continues to not necessarily perplex me, but amuse me, because he's supposedly this heel because he has an opinion, the greatest crime of them all, and he actually wrestles with a handicap. Now, granted, they did kind of get some heat on him by having him just take the count out and be like, screw this, which I liked, because up until that point, I'm like, okay, well, what's the difference between him and Sami Zayn? Like, he's gutting it out and Sami Zayn gutted it out. Aren't they both courageous for that? Aren't they both babyfaces for that? But having Rusev take the count-out loss does put a bit of heat on him. This is a huge opportunity for Cass. I mean, I have no delusions of him winning next week, but it's still great that Big Cass this early on gets to be in this spot. And I really hope he gets some hope spots in there. Maybe he gets close to winning the championship next week, but a pin gets broken up or something like that. They really have a chance to make Big Cass next week in a major way. So he does win by countout. It was a fun match. Rusev tried his best to still be a heel despite being a freaking boss in my eyes, wrestling with injured ribs. And I'm very happy for Cass getting this opportunity. Very cool.
Yeah, exactly. So then after this match, we got a Tom Phillips interview with Jericho, which was amazing. And I believe one of the names they called him in this was Felipe.
They did. And Jericho and Owens pretty much agreed to disagree about who was going to walk out the WWE Universal Champion next week on Raw, because Jericho was saying, I'm going to make a great Universal Champion. But then Kevin Owens is like, you would make a great Universal Champion, but I'm going to make a great Universal Champion. That's what you meant, right? And then Jericho's like, no, I'm a 6-time world champion, and he does his whole thing. And then, they get back on the same page. Jericho's like, oh, yeah, you're welcome for me helping you earlier. And then Kevin Owens is like, oh, well, thank you. And don't worry, I'll have your back. But there seemed to be a little bit of uneasiness. I don't know if that was just KO being KO. And then, yeah, of course, they take Tom Phillips to task, not even getting his name right. And then Jericho does his whole it thing after Kevin Owens pressures Tom Phillips, like, don't be rude. Ask him what's it. Ask him. And then Jericho says, it. And then when Tom Phillips thinks that he's safe, Jericho comes back and says, you stupid idiot. So great segment again from Jericho. I freaking love these guys. If you guys couldn't tell, they're amazing. Really wish they'd get a tag title run, but I don't think that's in the cards. But yeah, Jericho's just preparing for his match with Reigns. Anything you want to say about this?
I just want to say we won, John. We won the name war. There were people that were saying Y2KO. We won. It is Jericho officially. We won the war.
You're damn right we did. Yes, for superior naming. So yeah, man, anything you want to add to this?
I think that makes up for the loss in the Great War of Breezango, formerly known as Febreze.
I know, dude. Yeah, we got the win back. We're good now. Everything's at an equilibrium right now.
Like John Cena, we got the win back.
You're right, but he still lost at SummerSlam. Yeah! So
yeah, because AJ Styles got to beat up John Cena.
Oh, man. Yeah, knowing that he's got that momentum, I can't wait for SmackDown Live tomorrow. And I actually, in general, I can't wait for SmackDown Live tomorrow. I still think it's the better show, and Raw was actually a good episode tonight, in my opinion, at least. So,
but, I mean, yeah, Raw was decent tonight. It was, I would say it's best. I would say this is the best Raw that we've had since the post-draft Raw, but it still wasn't great. Like, the post-draft Raw was like a 9.5 or something. This was like a 7 for me.
Yeah, I mean, look, let's just be honest, bro. Titus O'Neal having a microphone alone kills any hope of you getting a 9 out of 10 or higher. Like,
I mean, yeah, that, but also this next thing that happened. Titus wasn't the only one that was unfortunately given a mic tonight. Charlotte also was.
Honestly, with her great collection of promos, I really didn't think this was one of her worst ones. I thought it was all right. I mean, nothing mind-blowing, mind you, but I thought it was passable. I'm like, okay. Because she pretty much made the point, like, she silenced all the critics. She showed everybody in Brooklyn that, she's better. She's a 2-time women's champion, really just staking her claim that she's the best. Now, a lot of people on Twitter, I wasn't one of them. I don't know if you were one of them, but I did see a lot of people on Twitter saying the only way I'll be okay with this segment as if it facilitates Bayley's debut, and we want Bayley to come out. And I'm thinking Charlotte's going to make her exit, and I'm like, seriously? You're just going to have her leave off that? Which isn't entirely ludicrous. There is precedent for that. There have been segments where Charlotte has just talked and has gotten no interruption or anything whatsoever.
I regret those. I regret those minutes of me watching Raw. That time, I'll never get it back.
Exactly. And I'm thinking, oh, man, you're not just going to let her talk and walk out, are you? And Mick said, not so fast, because he comes out. He says when Sasha Banks gets better, which, by the way, for everybody that doesn't know, Sasha Banks is not going to need surgery for her back injury. She's just going to need some R&R, I'm guessing. She'll be back in September. So happy to hear that. And
it's really good that she's not going to get surgery. She just has, apparently she's had a lower back injury for a while now, and they just changed the result of the match about a week ago or within the last week. And I got to say, John, if I was Sasha, I'd probably have a lower back injury too from carrying Charlotte to decent matches on a weekly basis.
Sick burn. But you know what? I'm so happy, one, that she's not going to need surgery, and two, that she wasn't suspended. Like, to know that Sasha keeps her image, she keeps being that inspiration for young girls, and she keeps her profile up, I think is amazing. And it just makes me breathe the hugest sigh of relief, because you never know who's going to do it, you know? So, like, I'm glad she's all on the up and up. And Mick assures us, like, she will get her rematch when she comes back. But in the meantime...
Well, and I was going to say, and third, it's nice to know that she's not going to have to be working with Charlotte again when she does come back.
I know, right? And that's another point. I'm glad you said that, because there's something I want to touch on here in a few moments. But Mick says, you know, there are downsides to the job, like having to have Finn relinquish the Universal Championship. And then Charlotte's like, tear. It's like, we didn't really ask you to speak there, Charlotte. You know, show some respect for Finn. You know, I know you're a heel, but at least be good at it if you're going to interrupt. And Mick says, but then there are good parts of the job, like getting the hottest free agent right now, and the crowd just erupts because they've waited for Bayley forever. It is Bayley. She comes out to a wonderful reception, and now I'm going to pass the baton to you, brother. What did you think about Bayley's debut here in terms of promo and just how she soaked it all in?
I mean, I knew it was coming. Maybe not knew, but I was like 99% expecting this to happen, and I've been calling this for how long now, John?
Absolutely. Yeah.
I feel like I said Bayley is going to debut on the main roster the night after SummerSlam as soon as her debut on Battleground happened.
Right. So, yeah, you've definitely been calling for this for a while. Did she live up to the hype? How do you think she did?
I got to be honest with you, man. I thought that her reception was good, but less than I thought it would be. I thought that the roof was going to blow off that place, but it seems like they were expecting it to the point that they didn't even react as much, just because it was like, well, it's about damn time, you know? Like, I'm sure she'll start getting bigger pops in the future as soon as her music hits, but I think that the way that they built this up, it was kind of similar to the way that Bret Hart built up Sami Zayn in his one-off match against Cena in Canada, and it was like, yeah, there was a pop, but it wasn't as big as it should have been.
Right, like compared to how ravenous the post-WrestleMania Raw crowd was for Bayley, I'm not saying these guys at the Barclays Center didn't want it, but they got it, and then I just feel like it kind of cooled down. And, you know, before we get into the specifics of, like, how Bayley debuted and everything, which I want to get your thoughts on that first, you know, I've been seeing, you know, some people say, like, oh, I feel bad for Sasha because her spotlight's gone. I guess no longer, like, the top babyface. To me, even if that is true, Sasha is always going to be a top star somewhere, face, heel, or just
she's going to be a top something. And I think that here, you know what, John? I'm just going to put it all out on the table. I have something envisioned in my mind. It was basically either A or B. A was Bayley debuts the night after SummerSlam and immediately beats Charlotte for the title. That didn't happen. So here's my plan B. Bayley versus Charlotte at Clash of Champions. Dana Brooke gets involved once, and then Sasha comes out. Sasha cancels out Dana Brooke. Bayley defeats Charlotte. Sasha celebrates with Bayley, and then either that night or the following night on Raw turns on her because she wants the title.
Yeah, I agree with you completely. Like, to me, when I saw Bayley come out and soak up the cheers and everything, I'm like, okay, because at least now Sasha can sink her teeth into something when she comes back, and that's being the top heel of the division. Because I'm sorry, Charlotte, but you don't have the chops for it. And we've been saying that for a while. I feel like now that Sasha may really get a chance to be a singles heel, no more team bat or any of that stuff, and really spread her wings and fly. Her and Bayley can have an amazing program for that women's championship. Charlotte's the only thing really standing in the way of that. And, we'll see if that gets remedied at Clash of Champions. But with that said, getting back to this Raw and Bayley's debut, what did you think of the whole interaction with her and Charlotte and just everything that followed from this?
I loved her, hug tease with Mick Foley, and then Foley was just like, "Do you mean right here?" And she was like, "I mean right here in Brooklyn, New York." It was cool that she kind of took the cheap pop from Mick. That was really cool to see. And then they hugged, and Charlotte was just like, yeah, whatever, Bayley, you don't belong here. You got left behind. And Bayley basically said, I'm challenging you. I'm calling you out right now. I want a match for the title. Yeah. And Mick didn't really say anything, but Charlotte was just like, well, I'm not dressed to wrestle, but Dana is, and you guys can wrestle, so have fun with that. And Mick was just like, okay, we've got a match. Dana, Bayley, you guys can do this right now. Go. And he got out of the ring, and Charlotte got out of the ring, and we got our match.
Yeah, I gotta say, I still don't feel bad now. I was gonna say I've rarely felt bad for Dana Brooke, and I don't know why. I mean, I still don't feel bad for her now, but she just had a look on her face like, the fuck? Like, she just looked at Charlotte like, seriously right now? I thought we were just gonna have a championship celebration. You throw me under the bus again? What have I even learned from you? God.
I'll tell you what you learned from her. How to keep it together, Dana.
No, bro, she didn't keep it together because that look on her face, now she performed in the match, yeah, she's falling apart.
And Charlotte learned that playtime is over.
Oh, God. Can I just say for the millionth time, just those two, and especially Charlotte as champion again. Emma, where are you, girl? Like, we need you back so bad. But, yeah, Bayley versus Dana. It was a brief match because, you're not going to expect Dana to work the longer matches like some of the women have been granted the right to. She's just not there. She's still very green. But I will give Dana this much. I think she was able to keep it together in terms of, like, no botches, nothing really too ugly for Bayley to really have a proper exhibition match with the crowd. She wins with the Bayley to belly. Charlotte looks concerned because she knows now that Bayley is gunning for her championship. And that's pretty much what we've got here. Bayley is gunning for Charlotte. And like you said, I'm thinking we will get a title match at Clash of Champions. Nice debut match for Bayley, but I'll be very much interested in how they capitalize on this momentum that they've established next week.
Yeah. Okay, so after Bayley handily defeats Dana Brooke, we get another Tom Phillips thing backstage. I think he's the only backstage interviewer now. Oh, no, never mind. They did have Andrea DeMarco, but she only had one interview tonight with Sheamus later on. But then Tom Phillips catches up to Roman Reigns and talks to him about his match tonight. And, in his own special little Roman Reigns way, he just kind of says that he's going to beat Jericho, and that's it.
Yeah. He's like, didn't he say I'm going to shut him up either with the scarf or with the fist or something? Like,
yeah, I didn't really get that, but whatever.
Yeah, I don't know. But regardless, it was Roman Reigns.
I think it's this whole sort of attempt at transforming Roman into a silent but deadly badass that's just not working at all in any way whatsoever.
Yeah, like, you can't go back to it, to me, once you've drifted away from it. Like, you had it at one point in time when he was the muscle of the Shield, but you lost it the moment you had him talking about Jack and the Beanstalk, and even more recent promos to me. Like, when you have him try and talk even somewhat extensively, you can't retreat back to that territory of Silent Killer to me. It just doesn't work because you need to have mystique to pull that off. And I feel like Roman's mystique has been so far gone now. So, yeah, it was what it was with the Roman promo. I've got nothing to say about it. Let's move on.
Okay. Up next, we got a really cool highlight of the Cruiserweight Classic competitors that will probably be in the WWE's on Monday Night Raw Cruiserweight division. We got some, highlights and spotlights put on Rich Swann, Noam Dar, Brian Kendrick, TJ Perkins, and I think there was someone else that I don't remember, but this was actually really well done. I'm really glad that we got this kind of introduction to a few Cruiserweight characters on Raw, and I look forward to this division actually being a part of the Monday Night Raw format, content, 3-hour chunk to kind of take away from the what's the word I'm looking for?
Monotony.
Boring factor. What did you say?
I said monotony.
The monotony. Thank you, John. Yes.
And you won't have to wait long because we actually did get a date here, September 19th, if my recollection is correct. We will be getting the Cruiserweights. And can I just say on a personal note, so happy to see Swan spotlighted because he may be a part of the Cruiserweight division on Raw right out of the gate, which so fucking cool for him to go from Force One, where I knew him, to Dragon Gate, to I think some promotions in Japan. Like, he's been everywhere to finally end up on Monday Night Raw on our televisions every week. Like, I like the other guys there too. Like, Noam Dar grew on me with his second match. TJ Perkins is a beast, but because I have that little bit of knowledge personally of Swan, so happy for him, dude.
TJ Perkins is going to be in a match against Johnny Gargano this Wednesday.
Dude, 2 words for that. Barn burner. That is going to kick ass.
And by the way, you said it was September 19th, right?
If I'm correct, yes.
Okay. That's in 4 weeks. So we have 3 more Raws until we get to CWC and the Cruiserweight division on Raw.
There you go. And that should coincide, I would think, with the ending of the tournament, because the tournament shouldn't be that much longer, right? So,
well, I mean, this week is the end of the second round, and then we'll have it narrowed down to 8. And we'll have four matches in the quarterfinals, and then 2 matches in the semis, and then the finals will probably happen live on Raw. I'm guessing on September 19th.
That would be amazing. And again, if WWE dared to be different with their television formula, I would have that main event. I really would. I know it's a risk, especially because that's probably really close. In fact, it may even be the go-home show before Clash of Champions. I don't know. But I take the risk. I do it.
That might even be post-Clash of Champions, honestly.
If it is post-Clash Champions, to me, all the more reason to do it. Because if you're talking about a new era, what's more new than having 2 really amazing cruiserweights, whoever make up the finals, go out there, kill each other for that trophy, and put on a clinic? I mean,
I'm guessing it'll end up being ZSJ and Kota Ibushi.
I'm guessing that too. So, and why shouldn't those two guys main event to really familiarize themselves in the best possible way with the crowd? And honestly, if you get diminished returns, it wouldn't be the first Raw to do so. So why not at least have some fun and experiment a little if you're going to do it anyway? So that's just my mindset about the whole thing. And I know it's not going to happen, but really frustrates me because I feel like you and I come up here on a weekly basis. You can correct me if I'm wrong. And I feel like you and I, whether we agree with each other or not, we both kind of share the common element of we want to be creative with television. Like, we see television as a vehicle of possibility. And sometimes I just don't see any passion for possibility with the booking. Even when it's a good show, I still wish they'd shake it up a little in terms of like what is featured where. And yeah, I'd love to see the Cruiserweights get that spot. But regardless, we are getting them September 19th. There are going to be a lot of great Cruiserweights. I mean, the 3 that I'm most excited about, if I'm being honest, just off the top of my head, I'm not saying that's all there is, but I'm most excited for Swan, obviously, Tony Nese, and TJ Perkins, and Cedric Alexander. Yeah, I mean, he was the guy that fans were actually imploring Triple H signs. That's all you need to know about Cedric Alexander. I mean, good God. So what are you thinking about the
kind of exceptional?
Indeed. So let me ask you.
Actually, dude, I'm looking right now. Clash of Champions is on September 25th, so you're right. The 19th is the go-home show. So I wonder if they'll do like the CWC Finals, and then we'll get a CWC Finals rematch for the Cruiserweight Championship at Clash of Champions.
It's funny you say that because I was going to put you on the spot before we transition to the next segment. I was going to ask you when you felt like the Cruiserweight Championship was going to appear. So are you going to say Clash of Champions or?
Yeah. I mean, well, dude, it's literally called Clash of Champions. So you would hope that if they were planning on introducing a new title, that'd be the show they do it at, right?
Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong, but what's so comical about that is I would trust Raw to commit that oversight.
Yeah. Like, 100%, dude. Yeah. And dude, here's the thing too. SmackDown's first show is the 11th. It's 9/11, and it's literally like 3 weeks away. It's so close. They don't have any time at all to build to it.
That's why they made AJ look so credible at SummerSlam, because it's like, yeah, that's how we're building the match between you and Ambrose, by having you go the fuck over.
Yeah, they have 3 shows to build to that pay-per-view. Like, they're in a little bit of a rough boat, and you know what? If at this point, I actually trust SmackDown's writers to pull it off, because they've been killing Raw as far as actual, writing quality goes.
Dude, you're not even wrong. And if they're smart, they'll definitely get Heath Slater on the Backlash card just to really promote it.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, he wasn't on Raw this week, so I think that might mean he's actually going to be a SmackDown exclusive guy. I don't know.
Which makes sense, because, I mean, he did get the hardest dick punch to date on SmackDown, with Shane being complete douchewad and taking that contract out of Slater's hands. So, makes sense.
How dare you call me my sister while you're knocked out and potentially concussed?
You think I give a shit about that brain research? I'm a McMahon, damn it.
You know what, though? I bet that's why he wasn't on Raw this week, because I bet kayfabe, Brian and Shane found him and ended up giving him an actual contract as a way to apologize for being dicks to him when he was concussed.
Yeah, they better, man. That's some. It's like, hey, Slater, we saw what happened to Orton. We realized it could have been so much worse. Here's a contract. Keep that pool insulated for your kids. So there you go. But yeah, to bring it full circle, I mean, we know Heath Slater won't be a part of the Cruiserweight division, but it's still going to be amazing. You think the title's going to debut at Clash of Champions. I'll have to agree with you there, because, you actually talk common sense, unlike most of the Raw writing team. So with
I was
that
just going to say, sadly, the fact that I talk common sense is actually a weakness when it comes to predicting Raw.
That's so true. But yeah, I think we can move on.
Well, up next was an Andrea DeMarco interview with Sheamus. Apparently next week is going to be the second in the Sheamus Cesaro Best of 7 series. And Sheamus just kind of uses his time here to make fun of New York sports teams. So, GG, bud.
Dude, normally this segment, I would just be like, oh, Ashton, you said everything I wanted to say. We can move on. But I have to say, like, I'm not a fan of Sheamus by any means. But I found the excessive pride Sheamus took in his disses to be hilarious. Like, he gets on the microphone, or he talks to Andrea DeMarco, and he's like, well, Cesaro, he's a lot like the Suicide Squad. You really expect him to deliver and step up, but then they come up short. And then the best part, like most New York sports teams, and then, like, normally generic heel line for the win, I guess. But then he laughs about it. And that wasn't a laugh like, I'm so evil. No, that was a laugh like, I nailed it. I had the line. I fucking nailed it. I'm an amazing heel. I'm so good at what I do. And it hit me so hard.
Hey, man, let's give him credit for nailing that line, though. That's more than we can say about Titus.
Dude, you're not even wrong. Maybe that's what Sheamus was thinking about. He nailed that line. He's like, oh, I'm still better than Titus. Oh, yeah.
He nailed that line. And you know what? I might not be a main eventer, but at least I'm not Titus O'Neal.
Dude, just something about his laugh and his smile that's like, yeah, that's right. I just earned this spot, bitch.
You know what, though, John? You're saying that, and it's funny to think of it that way, but I legitimately think that was a nervous laugh because he forgot the name of some New York sports teams.
Yeah, that's what made it even funnier. He didn't even bother to put his back into the generic line.
He literally even said that other basketball team. Like, he actually forgot the name of one of the basketball teams in New York.
You know what, though? I commend him for that, because I think a true heel wouldn't even afford the crowd the decency of saying the names. He would just commit a broad generalization, which is what Sheamus did here. So I think he's next level Dick Mule, at least as far as this promo is concerned. I enjoyed it in a perverse way. Like, oh my God, you're so proud of yourself. That's hilarious. But yeah, I mean, when we do know, I think you already said this, but just to reiterate, match 2 of the Best of 7 series is going to be next week. I'm still hoping the winner of this series gets a Universal Championship match. That remains to be seen. But yeah, Sheamus, he actually got a laugh out of me, which is more than I can say for most performers that intentionally try and be comedy. So for that, I'll give it a thumbs up. I was amused.
By the way, people, the basketball team that Sheamus either actually forgot or just claimed to forget so they didn't have to say the name of the city and get a cheap pop was the Brooklyn Nets.
Okay. So I guess we can move on.
Okay, well, up next was the Dudley Boyz retirement. And John, I really didn't care about this as much as I probably should have, so I'm going to let you take the reins here.
Oh, damn, I was going to give it to you because I really talked for the bulk of the Titus stuff, but if you didn't didn't really care much for it, I'll cover you there.
Oh, actually, no, I'm skipping literally the best segment of the night, and I am ashamed for it, but I'm glad I caught myself before we really got into the Dudley discussion. Are you ready for this?
Okay.
Braun Strowman versus Johnny Knockout.
Oh my God, yes! I actually thought that came later because it was on my mind. I just didn't really know the placement. What did you think about this?
Johnny Knockout is a legend, a living freaking legend. Johnny, you've seen what Braun's been doing to all these people. Why exactly are you doing this? Because I like big, sweaty men. I guess this is how the WWE plans to introduce LGBT characters onto their programming. Da-da-da-da-da. Gay!
Okay, us talking about this segment was worth it for that alone. After he said that, I just expected, I don't know, I kind of wanted like a reformed faction like him, Billy, Chuck, and Rico, and that whole theme song. Like, I don't know, man. Braun Strowman comes out. He destroys him, but here's what's so great about this, and correct me if I'm wrong, Ashton, because I could very well be wrong about this. I feel like this is the first squash match that Braun had that he really demonstrated some personality, because he actually did talk trash and he seemed more animated in this. Would you agree with that?
You know what though, dude? I kind of feel like he might have stolen a page out of Big E Langston's playbook, because after the match was over, after he already hit the reverse choke slam for the dominant pin, he decided to get Johnny. What was his name? Johnny what?
Johnny Knockout.
Johnny Knockout. Oh my God. More like, and Graves was brilliant too, because he was like, oh, you add two more letters and it becomes more accurate. Johnny Knocked Out.
Yeah.
And I love it though, because he's just like Johnny Knockout. You know, he just destroys him with that reverse choke, and then he gets him up and does like the weird flipping power slam thing, and just demands that the ref counts again. It really reminded me of Big E Langston's 5-count gimmick, but not quite to that extreme, so it's not as cool.
And you know what? It's not as cool, but I don't blame Braun, and more specifically Creative, for using it, because if you weren't going to use it on Big E, I mean, you know what? Braun can revel so much in his own dominance because look at the man. Like, you know, so I think it could actually work. And you know what? An angle like this, and I know maybe this is a little bit of Vince Russo in me. I really would now. Now that he's doing this stuff, I would love him versus the Big Show to be like a 5-count match. This way, when he really decimates Big Show, he sends a message. But regardless, yeah, he totally destroyed Johnny Knockout. It was brutal. I think he even said, like, nobody wants a piece of me. And I think he even cussed out the ref at one point, because I thought I heard him say, like, you'll get your ass down there and you'll count again. Like, Braun was incensed. He's like, you will make that count. And I just really appreciated how animated he became here. And I think Braun is slowly but surely, you know, showing that personality, showing that fire. They keep him on this trajectory. Who's to say he wouldn't be a great heel challenger for the Universal Championship down the road? You know?
Maybe in like a year or two after he's had a few legit programs. Because right now, like, as much as you and I might be entertained by him, he had literally no reaction whatsoever.
Oh, bro, I agree with you completely. This is not something you hotshot. This is something you cultivate with care. But you and I clearly see a lot of potential in Braun Strowman because, I mean, hell, you and I had a wrestling conversation, I think, in the aftermath of SummerSlam, and you're like, oh, you know, do you think Braun, you know, could beat Lesnar? How great would that be? And you and I mutually agreed, yeah, that would be a great move for them to make because Braun Strowman is an organic WWE product. And again, if you just look at the man, like, I could buy him beating anybody, and most people with relative ease, I might add. So I think if you really take good care of him, if you take it slow, if you cultivate the persona, if you really make him that heel, you get a baby face. Like if Finn Balor would come back and regain the belt, or any other sympathetic baby face that you could believe to hold that championship, Cesaro, Sami Zayn, you put Braun Strowman in their path, and I think it works. I think the story tells itself. So I think you and I see a lot in Braun Strowman, but we're not stupid. We want baby steps to be taken because better to do it right or else just not do it at all. So, yeah, great squash match here, and I'm really excited for the future of Braun Strowman, and I love the fire tonight.
Yeah, it's just funny though because like after that Johnny Knockout guy said about how he likes big sweaty men, there were people saying like, "Oh, well, this is how WWE is going to introduce LGBT to their programming," and I'm just like, you know what? You're joking, but I wouldn't be surprised if this was actually their first attempt at it.
Exactly. Yeah,
I wouldn't be surprised if they actually told this guy to go out there and, you know what, kid, you've got 30 seconds, you're gay, go out there and cut a promo. And that was what he did.
Which, by the way, I mean, at least for me, I don't know how everybody else is going to feel. I'll be curious to see everybody else's reactions, on Twitter and all that stuff. But way to really have subtlety there, WWE. Way to really just throw it in the like he didn't come out obviously and say I'm gay.
Honestly, John, I'm going to come right out and say this. I don't think that was scripted. I don't think that the writers were like, okay, go out there and tell Byron that you like big sweaty men. There's no freaking way. That had to be improv. There was no way that was scripted.
Which, I mean, all things considered, at least it was memorable. And maybe that's what makes for good TV. So Johnny Knockout, you did the best you could. And to be fair, you did a hell of a lot better than I would have done. If Byron would have asked me that and I had improv, I just would have been like, well, you see, eep. And then that would have been it. So at least Johnny Knockout strung a sentence together.
Oh, man. All right. So up next was the Dudley Boyz retirement. We can actually talk about that now. And I really do feel like I dominated the discussion of Strowman versus Johnny Knockout, so you can have this in.
Oh, of course I can, because you got to dominate the fun segment. Actually,
That's the point, John. Welcome to the show.
Wow, I'm really actually proud of you. I know it's rare, so I want you to enjoy it, but that was a really scummy thing for you to do, and it really touches me that you're learning.
Wait, I don't understand. I thought I did something mean to you. Why are you proud of me? This is so weird. What's happening right now?
I know, the conflicting emotions, but this wasn't, here's the thing about this. This wasn't bad so much as it was paint by numbers with no actual payoff. And what I mean by that is, are you laughing over there?
No, I'm not.
You totally were. Oh my God. All right.
I'm not. Stop it. Shut up.
What I mean by that is, guys, is if you looked on Twitter, which by the way, I've mentioned Twitter so much, I might as well. I live tweeted Raw tonight. My Scum Squad had my back again. I freaking love you guys so much. You're amazing. You make everyone work.
Gosh. Why would you be proud of something so awful as being a scumbag? I don't understand it.
Oh my God. Go in your corner and cry already. Get it out.
Please. Don't act like that wasn't a softball over the plate.
Oh, you're not even wrong. But still, though, don't hurt your arm from that patting on the back over there. But regardless, what a lot of people in the Scum Squad and just Twitter in general wanted was Bully Ray. And I really thought we were going to get it too, because retirement, there have been a lot of miscues. It just seemed to kind of set the table.
That's one of those overzealous wrestling fans wanting more than is realistic moments.
Do you really think so? Because there were a lot of miscues by the Dudleys.
Dude, you got to realize, just because TNA does something, I mean, people think, oh, TNA did something and it worked, therefore WWE is going to do it. If anything, TNA doing something and it working makes the WWE less likely to do it with the same person. If anything, they'll do it with someone else. Just to, say that they did something unique, even though they just stole the idea from TNA and used it on someone else.
See, no, to be fair, I can see where you're coming from. I hear you, and I agree with you from this vantage point you're coming from. But to me, and I'm being just completely honest about this, I wasn't even thinking all that much about TNA. Like, of course, it crossed my mind, but I was really thinking more basic booking 101. A tag team has a lot of problems. They have this retirement, but I think it's only for one guy to lull the other in a false sense of security and strike, because they were really having a lot of issues. But here's the thing, and this is where I think the segment kind of fell flat for a lot of people. They played this totally straight. No swerve, no anything like that. They do their goodbyes.
Dude, I love that Mark Henry has officially ruined all retirement speeches in the future ever.
Well, I think his was almost worth it, though, if he ruined every subsequent one, because that was a masterpiece.
That's what I'm saying, though. Like, he has ruined retirement speeches in the same way that, like, the Cabin in the Woods has ruined freaking horror movie, like the entire horror genre, really. Like, it's just one of those things where once you see this one thing, every other thing, you're going to have a completely different perspective while watching it of the same genre. Like once you watch The Cabin in the Woods, you're going to have a completely different perspective watching any other horror movie ever. And once you watch Mark Henry's retirement speech, you're never going to be able to look at any other retirement speech the same way again, because you're always going to be waiting for it to turn into a swerve.
Exactly, and that's an excellent point. And this didn't turn into a swerve. A lot of people would argue, myself included, it was something far worse. And I hate saying that because of who initially interrupted the Dudleys, the Shining Stars. Here's the thing. I love Epico and Primo. I think in ring, these guys are beasts, and they could be a real asset to the tag team division. But this, we shill Puerto Rico like somebody shills a timeshare on an unsuspecting couple. Yeah, it doesn't work. It really doesn't. I actually cringed in some parts because they're like, oh, for a going away present, we got you tickets to Puerto Rico. And then they made fun of the fact that, Bubba Ray's fat. So instead of going with the women, at least you'll love the food, right? And it fell so
Bubba
flat.
Ray's fat, dude. They're both overweight.
Yeah, Devon's not exactly in the best of shape either. The Dudleys, they do lay out the Shining Stars, and they're getting ready, I believe, to put Epico through a table because they 3D'd Primo, if I'm not mistaken. But then the club come out. They lay out the Dudleys. They take out Bubba with a magic killer on the floor. Devon tries fighting back, of course. I mean, those odds are overwhelming, not just numerically, but I mean, you look at conditioning and everything else. Devon stood no chance. And then the club did a magic killer to Devon through the table, which now creates a sense of ambiguity. Are the Dudleys really walking away, or did they just get a fire lit under their ass because the club and the Shining Stars really both disrespected them so much that it's like, no, we can't go out like that. We have to go out respected by everybody, even if we have to beat it into them. So I don't know what this is going to turn into. I mean, you'd think the club would stay focused on the New Day, which, by the way, you know who really made this segment? Big E. Because even though he didn't show up, he tweeted, because I guess people were wondering why the New Day didn't show up. He just tweeted, not our fight, big ellipses, and that was it. I'm like, yeah, Big E, you stay true to you, man. Respect. So, yeah, a really pointless retirement segment to me. They played it straight. I guess the one heel team in the Shining Stars tried to get some momentum off of it. They got shut down, and then the club shut the Dudleys down, which I guess is fine because they needed some way to recuperate to the loss they had earlier in the night when Carl Anderson lost to Big E. So I guess it works, but I really didn't care for it too much.
Okay.
Was the main event after this, or do we still have a little bit more after this? I feel like, yeah, we didn't have much more,
Yes,
did we?
Indeed, John. The main event was after this. Chris Jericho and Roman Reigns. But before we get to that, I just want to add in my little 2 cents here.
Okay.
I appreciate that the Dudley Boyz went out on their backs. Even if it wasn't a match that they lost, technically they did go out on their backs in that sense too, because they lost last night to Neville and Zayn. I appreciate that these guys are such consummate pros that they are willing to go out putting another team, and not only another team, but another pair of teams over. I like that.
Right. Yeah, definitely. And especially, I mean, the club really got the rub here because, I mean, the Shining Stars admittedly did get bitched out a little bit, but at least they got to, again, get some heel momentum cutting that promo. So I agree with you. Good stuff by the Dudleys. I wonder if they'll stay retired for good this time, if they're just going to go back to their school and do that, or whatever's next for them. But regardless, we shall see. But yes, main event time. Roman Reigns, Chris Jericho. And you know what? I don't even, because I've done it so much lately, I don't even really want to do it here. We could phone in all the lines about Roman Reigns, demotion, this, that, and the other. But I will say, and this is where I will defend him, it was a fun match. These guys worked well together. Roman Reigns' in-ring skills, I think, are at least on point enough where he can have a good match with most guys, especially the more experienced veterans like Jericho. I had fun with this main event, even though I knew the outcome the entire time. Of course, Roman Reigns is going to win, but they had great sequences. I mean, Jericho really having the spear scouted multiple times throughout the match, getting the walls of Jericho, that was great. Him getting the code breaker because Kevin Owens came out at one point and he hit Roman Reigns right in the bad eye. I know some people, and I would say this is a fair contention, narratively complained about this match because where was Rusev after getting assaulted the night before? You'd think he'd have a bone to pick with Roman, especially because he did take the countout loss. You'd think he would be conserving his energy to do something more impactful later in the night, and that's play spoiler for Roman Reigns. Obviously, that didn't happen. Roman does beat Jericho after a spear. Again, fun match. I get people's contentions like, where was Rusev? Where was any of this? But I think we all knew it was a foregone conclusion. Do you have anything you want to say about the main event?
I don't, actually. I was just, kind of flabbergasted that I predicted earlier in the night on Twitter Roman is going to beat the shit out of Kevin Owens and still pick up the win over Jericho, and it's going to be hilarious. And then it happened.
Yeah. I mean, again, I don't think you need any kind of a sense of prescience, being able to see the future or omniscience or any of that to know this was in the bag for Roman Reigns, even with Kevin Owens out there. And somebody had a really smart idea. Like, if they were such great heels, why wouldn't Kevin Owens even if it was just a single right hand to Chris Jericho, because that would mean Roman Reigns would get disqualified, because Kevin Owens, by all accounts, would have been aiding Roman Reigns. But look, they're not going to be that clever, because the whole point was to get Roman Reigns there. It was never going to be any other outcome. With that said, though, because I know I have the 30-second hot seat coming up in a few segments, I'm going to put you on the spot, partner. I'm going to ask you straight up. We have our 4 men set up: Rollins, Owens, Cass, Reigns. Who's walking out with the championship next week?
Oh, you know what? If I'm just playing it safe and just going with who I legitimately think is the most likely person, I'm just going to say screw it and pick Reigns. But if I want to say who I legitimately think should win, who I think is the best choice rather than the most likely choice, it's Kevin Owens by far. He needs to win. To me, Kevin Owens is the only person who's got world championship credibility in this match who's never held the world title before. Cass, stick to your tag team with Enzo. You're doing great things. You're not there yet. Rollins and Reigns have both already held world titles. It's Kevin Owens' turn.
I gotta say, partner, I'm glad that you and I have kind of pumped the brakes on our kayfabe kind of fighting, and we both mutually defended Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens. Because I'll tell you, man, and I'm being serious, as a fan, if Kevin Owens were to win, I'd lose my shit, and I'm rooting for him 110% next week, without question. I have got all my marbles behind Kevin Owens. I do think Rollins is going to win, because I think at Clash of Champions they're going to do Seth Rollins versus Roman Reigns, because and you know what?
Again.
Yeah, and I was going to say this isn't even meant to denigrate the Raw writing team, but I'd be lying because it totally is. I think they're going to fall back on these guys because it's a comfortable main event at a bad time when Finn Balor's injured. And the sad thing is, I'd like to believe, and again, I'm not going to feed into it. I already said after WrestleMania I wasn't going to feed into it, but I'd like to think, well, you get another chance at bat to do a double turn. But after Seth pretty much smiled and laughed in the face of Finn Balor's injury, I don't even know if I could buy it if they were to do it, because that image is still going to be fresh in my mind. So they're really committed to trying to get Roman Reigns over as a face. We already know this. It's going to fail. Yeah, that's what I think. I think Rollins, Reigns, Clash of Champions, even though it should be Rollins, Zayn, and really altogether, if I was being subjective, you're damn right Kevin Owens would be champion next week. I fucking love him. Everybody knows that. But I'm picking Rollins. You're picking Reigns. Oh, what a web we weave. And I like Rollins, but I agree with you. It's Kevin Owens' turn. So here's to hoping, but that's that. Are you ready for our next segment?
Oh, well, and if I'm being realistic, I do have to kind of call you out. You're picking Seth Rollins, and you think that's realistic, but let's be real. Seth Rollins isn't facing Brock Lesnar in 2017. Roman Reigns is. They're giving the title to Roman, and he's going to defend it against Brock.
Well, here's the thing. They may, but I'll tell you.
You think they're going to give it to Seth first and have Roman win it off of him before the end of 2016?
And I think that's just as likely. I don't see why they
you know what? I'm going to apologize for the call out, because you're right, dude. That's actually a really good point. That's definitely just as likely. I think at the end of the day, though, I don't know if it could be any more transparent that Roman Brock is basically set in stone for WrestleMania 33. And I even would go as far as to say that I think that SummerSlam was a way to try and get people to hate Brock even more than they did before, to try and get people to cheer for Roman when they face.
I'm really, and it's not your fault, obviously. And you know what? You don't even have to apologize for the call out, because I understand completely where you're coming from. It's just, this is the frustrating part about Raw. I'm really getting tired of the phrase because they keep doing it, and that's where the problem lies, trying to get people to like Reigns or trying to get Reigns over. Do you notice how trying comes up a lot because they haven't succeeded yet?
Yep.
Now, I can admire gumption. I can admire people that keep charging at something that they want. But even me, who I feel like is more of an idealist than most and is very supportive of people's dreams, if it's your dream to have Roman Reigns be a successful babyface WWE, I'll even tell you that I think you can do it. You're just not looking at the right path. You are deliberately taking a path with all this brush and obstacle and just arduousness. It's right there. Let the people get their hatred out of their system. But no, you're going to have either Rollins win, and it's going to be Rollins Reigns at Clash of Champions, or you're going to have Reigns win, and it's still going to be Rollins Reigns at Clash of Champions, but the alignment's already set in stone. Seth is still going to be the heel. I don't know why. Roman's still going to be the face. I don't know why. And we're all just going to be like, well, it was a good match, but. And you know why the but's there? Because narratively, you are denying yourself brilliance, and you should feel bad about it. That's really... Yeah, that's really how I feel about it.
I got to tell you, dude, I am so happy knowing get on Raw for the next, I don't know, 4 months, 5 months maybe, that we're not going to be reviewing the show.
Yeah.
I mean, if anything, I got to tell you, I'm at the point that I kind of feel like we should pick and choose one of the 2 pay-per-views that are going to be happening every month from here on out to do live reactions to, because if it was up to me, we would live react to Backlash and not Clash of Champions.
Right. Yeah,
you know what I mean? Because like to me, Clash of Champions, like we're going to have Bayley Charlotte rather, and that's going to be great. But what else are we going to do on that show? Are we going to have another Club versus New Day rematch? Probably. Are we going to have another Rusev random somebody that didn't even earn a championship opportunity match? Yeah, probably. Are we going to have Seth versus Roman again? Yeah, probably. Who cares?
And you know something? This is what really, and I know what I'm about to say. I'm fully aware that what I'm about to say is hyperbole, but that's kind of the point because I really want people to hear what I'm saying. What I loathe about Raw, because we will, we'll keep our finger on the pulse, we'll provide the coverage, but I feel like Raw's writing almost holds me hostage in a way because they have great acts that I want to support. Acts like Cesaro, Bayley, Owens, the like. I mean, you know the list. Everybody knows the list. But then you do things like stay stubborn with Roman Reigns, and it really makes me hate what they're doing. Like, it really makes me begrudgingly give them my viewership when I feel like they haven't legitimately earned it, even with the people I like on the product. You haven't earned my viewership. If anything, SmackDown, the show that we've been saying from day one, has had the more severe handicap, in terms of their rosters and their divisions. They've been earning my viewership, sometimes by greater margins than others. But I feel like they've consistently done that. Raw, man, I'll tell you, wherever your mind is, you got to get focused, man, because I would love if Kevin Owens closed the show with that Universal Championship in hand, but I'm nobody. Well, okay. I can be somebody's fool sometimes.
Forget Bobby Roode. That would be glorious.
Yeah, absolutely it would be. And you know what? I mean, as far as Rusev goes, maybe they could do what I would like to see them do. If you want to be different and you want to keep me invested, do Big Cass versus Rusev. He did beat Rusev by countout tonight. That's more of a legitimate claim.
I think that's actually what they're going for, honestly.
Yeah, and I don't blame them for that. That at least makes a modicum of sense. But man, and the only reason I complain about Roman Reigns is because you make Roman Reigns a big deal with your booking. He main evented again tonight. So if he has this place of prominence, he's going to be the most open for criticism. The more out in the open you are, the more vulnerable you are to criticism. And Reigns is so promoted, I've got to be the most critical because, again, he's the most promoted. So, and if you're not doing it right, it just drives the air out of me. And yeah, I'm just picturing Clash of Champions.
This Roman relegation lasted about as long and was about as effective as a John Cena firing in a storyline.
Dude, I don't even have to add anything to that. We're going to move on to our next segment if that's okay to you. High spots and low shots. You know what? I'm going to say my low shot is Chris Jericho, because even with all that experience, even with Kevin Owens, and even with the Barclays Center who hates Roman Reigns, it wasn't enough for Jericho to get the win. it's Roman Reigns time. So Jericho is my low shot.
Yeah, really, you could even go as far as to say Jericho, but Kevin Owens is in the match next week, so maybe not full blown, right?
Exactly.
All right. Well, my low shot is going to be, I'm going to kind of enjoy this one. Dana Brooke, because, you show up and you're supposed to be this sort of Charlotte mini-me kind of thing, but clearly Charlotte only sees you as an object that can fight her battles for her and that can help her keep her championship belt, because she straight up used you tonight the same way that Rita Repulsa used to use the putties to distract the Power Rangers. You were used to distract Bayley, to try and trip her up, to try and prevent her from getting a shot at Charlotte's championship. And you failed again. So congratulations, Dana Brooke, you're my low shot for being a complete and utter failure. And honorary low shot goes to Titus O'Neal for being a failure at everything in life, except he didn't lose a match tonight, so I can't rightfully give him my full-blown low shot.
I gotta tell you, partner, if you prick your ear up because of that Power Rangers reference, I think you could hear Xavier Woods clapping for you for that reference. So nice.
Well, I don't know if I can hear Xavier Woods, but I know for a fact that I made Alex Foster happy because he actually screamed Power Rangers reference in the chat.
Very nice. You know what? I'm gonna have some fun too. My high spot is Kevin Owens. Because you know what? For a guy that lost at Battleground, he's done damn fine for himself since then. He is one match away from becoming Raw's new Universal Champion in the wake of Finn Balor's injury. And, Jim Ross used to say it all the time, when a top star gets injured, that's the time for other guys to really step up their game. And I think about guys like Kevin Owens when I think about these circumstances. Can he win next week? Obviously, from the prior discussion, we both have our doubts, but he's in the mix. And that alone means he had a stellar night to be my high spot.
Okay. I can dig that. All right. My high spot is going to be, give me a drum roll, John. Titus O'Neal. Just kidding. It's not actually Titus O'Neal. No, my actual high spot's gonna be Big Cass though, because he went from tag team matches and being consistently not booked super strong. I mean, he was, he kind of dominated the Dudleys, but even just last night, he lost. He and Enzo lost to Jericho, and now he not only got an opportunity at a match that could put him in the world title contention, but he actually won that match, which means he's in a world title match as of next Monday. That's a huge ascension for this dude, and I've got to give him props because I feel like it's due.
Absolutely. That's an excellent choice. In fact, I'll be honest. If I'm Enzo, I'm feeling just a tad bit salty because I was a part of that initial interrupting segment too, where it was my qualifying match. But
right though, like it's like Stephanie just saw them come out and she was just like, "Oh, well, I get Cass. He's totally getting a qualifying match, but I don't know what the other one's doing out here. He doesn't belong in this picture. He belongs in the Cruiserweight picture. Look at him. He's small."
Exactly. Ugh. But that said, let's move on to our next segment, Raw Request. My Raw request is very straightforward. Whoever you crown as your next Universal Champion, and obviously, again, given the prior discussion, we think it's either going to be Rollins or Reigns. Whether you surprise us or whether you stay conservative and go with one of those two picks, make sure the feud, because Clash of Champions is a thing, is compelling and you don't waste any time. I would hope that whatever feud it's going to be, maybe it's a screwy finish in the Fatal 4-Way. Like maybe Reigns hits a spear on Big Cass and Rollins tosses him into the ring post and then he picks up the scraps. I mean, at least that's something to work with. So when you lay the groundwork for who your new Universal Champion is, my request is that you also set in motion whatever the Clash of Champions match is going to be, because there really should be no wasted motion here. So that's my Raw request.
Okay, my Raw request is actually going to be a little bit more on the simple side, I think. My Raw request is going to be to do a better job of picking and choosing who gets to talk. Let the people that are good at it do it, and don't let the people that are bad at it do it.
Looking at you, Titus. You see all the trouble you caused?
And Charlotte. Titus is the worst example from tonight, but as a general rule of thumb, this might as well be called the Charlotte rule.
Wow, scorched earth. You know what? I co-sign onto that. Look, I feel like if you've got like a proficient level of acumen in an area, say for given your example, Mike talking and cutting promos, you should be given the most promo time. I understand that you want everybody to be a certain level of competency, but not everybody's going to get there. I would rather listen to a Paul Heyman promo than a Charlotte promo. Or, I mean, if Seth Rollins, I think, is really good on the mic. Give him time. Or, keeping it to the women, because Charlotte's a woman. Sasha Banks cuts amazing promos. Charlotte does not. So Sasha should be getting a lot more mic time, especially when she returns. We'll get the ball picking right back up. I agree with you. Let's curtail the mic time for the horrible people. Let's up the mic time for the great people. That's straightforward enough for me. With that said,
out of the people that were in that Titus O'Neal segment tonight, the only person that should be getting mic time is Bob Backlund.
You're so right. I could listen to Bob Backlund rant and rave and be insane and be entertained more than I could hear Titus O'Neal attempt to be coherent. So that's where I'm at with Titus O'Neal. But with that said, we get to our main event segment, 30-second hot seat. And what question do you have for me this week?
My question for you this week, John, is actually relatively simple. At what point, whether it be next week or at Clash of Champions or whatever, do you think the New Day is going to lose their championships to? Or do you think they're going to lose their championship? Well, let me start back over. Rewind just a sec. When do you think the New Day are going to lose their championships? And to whom do you think the New Day are going to lose their championships? And if the answer is the club, who do you think the club's first feud is going to be after they get done with the New Day? You have 30 seconds, and your time starts now.
Okay, I do think the New Day are going to lose at Clash of Champions to the club. And I think the club's first feud after we get the New Day's obligatory rematch out of the way is going to be with the realest guys. And that program should continue until I would say at least Survivor Series. So that's my prediction for the tag title scene for the moment.
Damn, you're getting so much better at this. Maybe I need to start thinking better questions.
Hey, dude, to me, because we've been doing the 30-second hot seat for a while, it kind of hits cycles. There's a cycle where the questions are really hard and I'm just horrible at what I do. Then I hit a bit of a groove and you kind of cool down, and then we're right back to the hot questions again. So I just think we're at that low ebb, but it'll pick back up again where your questions are hot and I'm getting stumped.
So what you're saying is the 30-second hot seat is booked by Lucha Underground writers?
Yeah, I'd say that's about right.
Because it's not quite 50-50 booking, but there are just some times when one of us has the other one's number.
Exactly. There you go. With that said, any concluding remarks about Raw?
I am really glad that this is the last Raw of 2016 that we will be reviewing. I can't emphasize that enough. This Raw and tomorrow night's SmackDown will be the last WWE television shows that we review for the rest of the year. We will still be doing pay-per-view live reactions and reviews. We will still be covering NXT every week. And when Lucha Underground Season 3 kicks back up again, we'll cover that. And we will also be finishing out the CWC. And then when the Women's Classic starts later this year, we will be covering that as well with live reactions. But as far as WWE main roster television goes, we're done for the remainder of 2016, and we won't be back until the Royal Rumble. And we're not going to be overly dramatic about it and act like we're done forever. We're just saying that we're done till Rumble.
And there you go, guys. You heard it there. With that said, this has been Raw. This has been TWitWoW, the best wrestling podcast made for wrestling fans, by wrestling fans, on the web today. I'm John. That's my cohort and commentary Ashton. Guys, be sure to comment, subscribe, and like the video on YouTube, because remember, the more likes we get, that plays into YouTube's algorithm. We could be the top search result. Give a big fuck you to math and like the video so that we're the top result. And remember, for the comments down below, the discussion that you guys get to have, it's the 30-second hot seat. So when is the New Day's Tag Team Championship reign going to end? If you think it's going to end at Clash of Champions or just down the road, but it's going to be at the hands of the club, who is the club's first feud going to be? So talk to us down below. Now, you guys already know all the stuff to check out because of my partner's amazing backgrounds that he makes. What you may not know, though, is to submit questions for Q&A. We do a Q&A the last Friday of every month, which by my count should be this Friday. So you still have a little bit of time left, guys, to submit questions for our second ever Q&A. Our first one did incredibly well. We've already exceeded questions for this one. And yeah, I still think some people made mentions to me for their Q&A. Anybody wants to make sure that their questions get answered, please DM me. If you're going to use Twitter, you have Twitter, you have YouTube, you have Reddit, you have Facebook, our TWitWoW Facebook page, all sorts of mediums that you can submit questions to. I'm really excited to get to them. You can ask questions to myself, to Ashton, to both of us, or even to my alter ego, Johnny Scumbag. Everybody gets 5 questions per Q&A, so make them count. And guys,
and our Q&A video is this Friday. Just putting that out there.
Yes, so you still have a little bit of time. The window's open just a crack. Get those questions in if you haven't already. And guys, until then, we will see you again for our last SmackDown Live review of 2016. We're going to see how the WWE Championship situation plays out. I'm thinking AJ Styles is going to have a mouthful for Dean Ambrose, and you're going to get all of your best coverage here at TWitWoW. Until then, tune in and peace out.